Hello. Oh, we're live. I've just seen it pop up that we're live. Thank you ever so much for joining today's live stream. Really appreciate Eric's invitation for me to come along and talk about my topic today, which is continuing professional development within English language teaching. So, thank you ever so much for joining. Please let me know where you're from in the comments. It'll be great to see where you're from and who's here already to join. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at continuing professional development. What is it? How we can improve as teachers, and the sort of steps that we can take when it comes down to uh, developing ourselves as practitioners, educators, and the sort of opportunities that are available. So I'm going to share off my first slide. I know Eric's. Thank you very much, Eric. He's in the background doing all the sort of bits and pieces, and we've got Mashid here from Iran. Eric is. Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Mashid from Iran. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. And Sophia Arabi from Algeria, hello and welcome. Any other questions? Like I said, please put in the chat. It would be great for you to share your questions or your thoughts or your ideas about professional development. Mustafa Nakfar, hello from Japan. Nice to have you here, Mustafa. Right, well, let's get started. And today, our aims for this webinar, and again, thank you, Eric, for inviting me for this webinar. Hello, Boni-esther. Hello, nice to see you here as well. Thank you ever so much. And we've got Cynthia. Hello from Indonesia. Hello, and Algeria. Wow, we've got quite a few people coming along. So that's great. So our aims for today's webinar is looking at suitable courses for aspiring English language teachers. So if you're wanting to become an English teacher, we'll look at the sort of different courses. Okay, so Algeria, India, Indonesia, wow, all around the world. Thank you ever so much. We're going to have a look at the life cycle of an English language teacher and use my experiences, I suppose, as a demonstration and hopefully inspiration for those teachers elsewhere. We'll look at the potential opportunities that teachers could exploit, or well, rather than exploit, I suppose, opportunities that you could undertake to develop as a teacher. Hello from Algeria, Peru, India. Wow, oh my gosh, so many people from around the world. It's great. Jordan, well, welcome. Well, hello from Jordan. Okay, we'll have a look at potential opportunities for those teachers wishing to develop, sort of creating a niche within English language teaching or English education or language teaching itself, and a sort of focus as a teacher. So when we talk about English teaching, it's such a broad subject. There's business English, general English, young learner English, a variety of different topics available. And it's just trying to find out that sort of niche that you want to focus on, what you're passionate about. We'll have a look at sort of courses available for young learner teachers, and also other courses available. Wow, I can see so many. Eric Senior, I suppose that is Eric's father. Is that the case? Perhaps it is. So hello to Eric's father, Eric Senior. We've got Libya. Yeah, wow, Myanmar, Algeria. Thank you. There's so many people. Russia. Hi, Eleanor. Thank you ever so much. Right. Well, we're going to have a look at our first thing here. So when I first started out teaching, that was back in 2005. It was a cold winter December, and in 2005, June, July, I graduated from Southampton Solent University. I studied international business. I was already married by that point for about 3 years. 3 years. Um, and I was unsure what I wanted to do. My son was just over a year old by that point. And as a young family, and my wife being from South Korea, we thought, okay, let's go to South Korea. And my final course at university was about intercultural communication. And I was passionate about culture, about communication, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. Um, so I, along with my young family, my wife and son in tow, we made the move to South Korea. Okay, and I ended up teaching very young children, as you can see in the picture here, English, and I was the only, I suppose, what you would call native English teacher, the only teacher who spoke English as a first language in that school, in that town, and there were no other English speakers. And my wife done an amazing job to help me and support me whilst I was thrown in the deep end. And before I started my career as an English language teacher in December 2005, I did a weekend course in the UK. And this weekend course, it was over a couple of weekends. And it was a sort of introduction into how to teach, or how to teach vocabulary, how to teach grammar, but nothing too detailed, and there was no teaching practice as well. So I ended up completing that, flying over to Korea and teaching young kids, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed teaching the little kids and that sort of thing, and it was such an amazing start of learning more about my wife's culture, and also learning more about where my wife was brought up as a young child, and offering an opportunity for all these young kids to communicate in English. And I was just so passionate about sharing my culture, my roots, my background to these aspiring English speakers, these young kids who were so curious about me being the only English speaker in the village, or the English man in the village. So that was an amazing journey. Anyhow, as we get on to progressing as an English teacher, you can see here 2005 December, and I continued on to 2023 to date. In 2007, I did an accredited course in English language teaching. I continued on my journey. I moved on from teaching kids to adults. I got involved in a variety of different opportunities within teaching adults in Seoul, the capital of South Korea. And then in 2009, I returned back to the UK with my then slightly older family. My wife, son, and I, we returned back to the UK in 2009 with just my certificate in teaching English, which was recognised by Cambridge, and also recognised by English language schools in the UK. I continued on my journey through 2009 to like 2011. I decided to do an MA in English language teaching. And that MA kind of gave me the confidence, because I was thrown back into the deep end of teaching in England, where I am at the moment, and offering, a chance to teach other nationalities, not just South Korean students. And Thanks for sharing. You're very welcome. And whilst I was progressing on as a teacher and continuing my MA, I didn't necessarily have that confidence to teach other nationalities. Korean students, I knew their potential flaws, their pronunciation issues, the grammar issues, and I could anticipate and predict quite well the sort of issues that they may come across. Other nationalities, I had no clue whatsoever. So I thought, okay, I'm being thrown into an adult class of all Arabic speakers. How do I teach these students who are completely different to the sort of students that I was used to in South Korea? And an MA was the answer for me. So I ended up doing an MA in English language teaching. And I continued on with my journey. And if you have a look at my presentation, thank you, Eric. So from 2012, I continued, I got a position. I specialized post MA. I took a young learner course. And then I became more and more involved with teaching young learners. So I started with young learners, and then continued on with adults, returned to the UK, continued with adults, specialized teaching young learners, returned back to teaching young learners, continued that on for a number of years to about 2019, and I started teaching English online around 2016. Okay. And then after about 2019, I then started working at a university teaching international students and being involved in more academic English. So you can see I've had quite a varied, I guess, quite a varied career over the past, I guess it's 17 years now, just over 17 years, coming up to 18 years this December. And we have a comment here from Eric Senior. Whereabouts in the UK do you live? I started ESL in Seoul, 2002 to 2003. Eric's dad. Well, I live in the south coast of England, in Eastbourne. And I left I was in the military from 1999 to 2002, and I left the military in 2002 and then studied for 3 years and went to Seoul in 2005. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's where I live in the UK now, in sunny Eastbourne, as we call it. Right. So that was my life or my progress within the English language teaching field. But there's been quite a lot that's happened. And I'm going to go back to the beginning. And I mentioned at the beginning that I did a weekend course. But what sort of courses could people take if they want and if they're passionate and they're aspiring to become professional English language teachers? So there's a variety of different international qualifications available. There's initial teacher training courses available. The most respected are CELTA and the Trinity Cert TESL. The CELTA, the Certificate in English Language Teaching to Adults, or I think it's called slightly differently now. The CELTA is accredited by Cambridge. And the Trinity Cert TESOL is accredited by the Trinity College London. So these two courses are internationally recognized, and if you have these, they're either intensive courses for 4 weeks, part-time courses 8 weeks, 9 weeks, or online, fully online, full-time, part-time courses. Once you get this sort of qualification, it opens up more opportunities to work for international organizations such as the British Council, International House, and other reputable, like Wall Street English, other reputable organizations around the world, not just perhaps in your own country, but if you want to teach English in Europe or South America, Asia, these are the most respected courses. Um, as I mentioned, why should you take these? It's internationally recognized by companies. They're accredited, and they focus on the practicalities of teaching English. So you will have practical teaching experience, and you will get that much needed feedback from trainers, from professionals who are highly skilled in teaching English as a, as a foreign language or as a second language. Okay. Um, and the other sort of courses that are available, where sometimes these courses don't have like a practical teaching element to it. They have the theory, but there's no practice to it, and they're also not really recognized by certain organizations, companies as well. Okay. So, when I first mentioned looking at doing a weekend TEFL course, it didn't necessarily give me that practical experience of how to deal in a classroom, the classroom management perspective. It didn't really tell me about the principles, the theories, the pedagogy of teaching, and also it didn't necessarily offer anything that I could apply into the classroom. It was very good with the theory, um, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to work for a reputable organization, an organization that recognizes the qualifications, and the more reputable organizations then, or qualifications, then the CELTA and the Trinity TESOL hold their own. They're not, no other can really compete with that in some regards. However, that's not to say the TEFL courses online, what have you, don't have any grounding. But for most professionals, then a CELTA or Trinity TESOL is possibly considered the most suitable. Now, once you get that initial qualification, that initial certificate in teaching, not only will you learn the really important elements of classroom management and how to deliver aspects of language to learners, and reading, writing, speaking, listening, there's additional opportunities elsewhere. So when I finished my CELTA course, I ended up working for Wall Street English in Seoul, South Korea. And there was an opportunity that arose for those that had recognized qualification to become examiners for Cambridge. And Cambridge and Korea had some sort of agreement to offer a sort of exam for business, or for those people that want to apply for an organization in South Korea. I think it was called SK Telink. It was a telecom communication at that time. And so there was a sort of business English exam that was being developed through Cambridge in conjunction with SK Telink. And I would not have been able to get involved with examining work had it not been for doing that. So, there's exam work available. That the BULATS, the business language testing system that I was involved with, that led on to additional work with FCE or FIRST. There's other examining work available internationally with IELTS. And also you could get involved with materials writing. You could create your own blog. You can create your own website, which I've done myself. I've developed my own website, my own presence, and that has some sort of regard, I suppose, when it comes down to teaching. Also, there's another element to it. So there's the practice of teaching, and the practice of examining and specializing in that certain area, but there's also associations or special interest groups that you could join. And certain associations are available for certain countries. There's special interest groups as well. And both these offer an opportunity to meet other professional teachers and an opportunity to maybe secure employment and share opportunities with each other. You could get involved with writing a sort of for materials or getting involved with young learners, teaching. And these SIGs have a specialist area or niche that if you're passionate about it, then you could join that special interest group. So when I was teaching young learners in the UK and I completed a young learner extension certificate, I got involved with the a young learner and teen SIG, YLT SIG, and I shared my own experiences and my own ideas about teaching kids and the sort of things that are required. So you can join a SIG. They publish a journal or a magazine every 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And there's also the Tefl, the International Association for Teachers of English as a Foreign Language. And this is an international association. You join them, and then you can join the other SIGs and that sort of thing. But there's a great opportunity there. So have a look at the IATEFL. They offer some great opportunities for members, and they also have a job listing on their website as well. Right, I'm going to move on. And one element that I considered or I mentioned before was perhaps starting to write or blog. And I started writing my website, eltexperiences.com. So I did share this at the beginning. I'll share all the links later. I started blogging and writing initially about my experiences of doing my MA course back in 2011. And I thought, okay, I'll do some writing. It'll help me remember. It's a good reflective process. And that was the only thing that I ended up doing. But then I started getting more and more involved with writing about my experiences in the classroom, not just about my MA course. And I found that much more rewarding. And this is going back 12 years ago or so. And then I started sharing some ideas about materials that I was using or how to use flashcards or vocabulary. And it seemed to generate some interest because, it wasn't, it was a few years before blogging became much more recognized as it is now. So blogging is a great opportunity to become more visible and market yourself as a professional teacher. Also, writing helps improve your writing. The more you write, the better you get at it. And that was one thing that I noticed with my MA course. The more I started blogging, the more I started reading, the better I was able to get at writing. It also allows you to reflect on your teaching practice. And it's a great chance to think back about what you would do differently next time in a classroom. And you could share, if you're willing to share or shamelessly promote your blog or your blog post. You could share your reflections with others, and others may have ideas and they may comment, and there's all that wonderful stuff about blogging. The other aspect is maybe writing your own lesson plans, writing your own ideas for teaching practice. And this offers a sort of platform or a sort of demonstration to potential publishers about the sort of materials that you're starting to write about. And it shows your commitment into language teaching, and you may get work as a materials writer. Now, one element about blogging, and I've been blogging for about 10 years or so. And bear with me, I'm going to grab a book. So I got this book sent through to me. One, because I have a blog that I've had for many, many years, and this one's about academic writing. And if you contribute to your blog, if you write about book reviews, then you get free books, which is a bonus, I suppose. So keep an eye out on my blog, and you'll see a review soon about academic writing. Right. Another element of continuing professional development is trying to connect with other teachers. Now, the traditional form would be to connect with teachers in a physical staff room, which is great. That's fantastic. But again, back in 2011 or so, I joined, it was about, 11 years ago, I joined Twitter. And it was very early in its, it was quite young at that point. And I wanted to see how quickly I could connect with other English language teachers. And that was it. And it seemed to explode, and more teachers joined Twitter a few years later. So I would recommend, because there's so many teachers that you can meet outside of a physical classroom on Twitter, this will give you an opportunity to microblog, as we call it on Twitter. You can contribute to ideas that people are sharing. You can promote shamelessly your blog, your website, your YouTube, your Instagram, whatever, on Twitter, and you can connect with teachers as well. And a couple of times I've used Twitter saying, oh my gosh, I've got a lesson this afternoon. I've got no idea what to do. I'm pretty stuck for ideas. I've, done all my good stuff. Does anyone have any ideas that I could, that they could help me out with? And, sure enough, there was one chap who said, yep, I've got some material. Here you go. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. And that was it. So connecting digitally, remotely with other teachers within a global platform is much better now than the traditional staff room as it was back then. So have a look, and definitely use hashtags such as the hashtag like ELT chat or Tefl or English teacher. These hashtags will start to you could search for the hashtag. The second, you could consider connecting with teachers that use those hashtags as well. Right, we're going to move on to the next part, and we're going to have a look at courses. I've already mentioned about courses, initial courses, but there's free online courses which are accredited by the big universities like Cambridge here. And you can see here that, once online teaching became a lot more regarded, and that's another issue, pre-pandemic, when it wasn't considered a professional opportunity. It is now post-pandemic. But Cambridge now offer an English online course. It's a 4-week course, 5 hours a weekly study, and you can do the course for free, but you won't get a certificate, but you can pay for the certificate. And these courses are fully remote. And these are cheaper than having to go into a physical environment. And it's much more convenient to do free online courses. And there's so many different courses available on Future Learn, not just English teaching, but also computer programming, photography, etc. So have a look at Future Learn, particularly for teaching English online if you're keen. Okay. University in linguistics, TESOL, and English teaching. And this opens up more opportunities. Again, it confirms your decision, your professionalism, your choice in your career, your chosen career. And you can do these courses from the comfort of your own home. So many UK institutes offer international courses, qualifications for professional English teachers. And I've got a couple of friends who have done a PGCI or an online MA. One friend in Japan, he completed his international relations MA course, all fully remote. And it was, I think, University of Bath or somewhere like that. And that led into further opportunities for him to teach at a university in Japan for international relations. So consider doing an MA after a couple of years of your initial certificate. Opens up great opportunities. Okay. Now, a final few things that you could consider when it comes to developing as a teacher. Okay, so start to expand your network, start to connect with others, and offer to present at workshops or associations. Now, presenting, much like I am now, is available remotely. I've given a variety of different presentations online, so you don't necessarily need to travel to the venue. However, if you want that face-to-face, that physical experience of delivering a presentation to a handful of people in a room, then go for it. It's great. A great opportunity as well. Write for associative magazines like Tefl Voices. Contribute to book reviews. You could get your own book, to review. Share your own teaching ideas, your experiences, reflections, and this will allow a greater opportunity for readers to start connecting with you. And the more publications that you get, the more exposure you get, the more potential opportunities you have later on. And then develop your presence online. It's free to create your own website now on WordPress or Blogger. It's easy to do so. You can share your ideas. You can connect on Twitter. You can set up yourself on social media. It's a level playing field now, and it's just about connecting with others, contributing to others, and also sharing your ideas, because this is how we all would develop. And someone will give you an idea that you might not necessarily have considered when it came down to, I've got a problem with these potential students, or I don't know how to do this certain activity. What would you do? And then you may get a lot of ideas, and you go, I didn't think of that, and then you could apply that into the classroom. So definitely start to connect with others remotely. It's such an easy process nowadays. Okay, so it comes to the end where I am when it comes down to this sort of webinar, and I appreciate it. Here's all the links, and I'll be happy to share today's slides as well. So I really appreciate all the sort of comments that have been flying through, and if there's any questions, it'd be great to hear what you may have to ask. So thank you ever so much. Right, so let's have a look at the comments quickly. Looking through. While at Shul at Queen Rania Academy, we learned how to make student creativity, the ability to innovate and solve problems, and not just sit in the classroom writing what he hears, only for everyone to activate the principle of differentiation. Student engagement is key. As teachers, we always strive to try and deliver courses which are engaging, innovative, and trying to facilitate getting students to communicate in the classroom. Solving problems, completing tasks are a great way for negotiating and communicating in the language classroom. Okay, right. Well, is Eric here? I think Eric's here.
Hi, Martin.
Hi there. Thank you ever so much for inviting me.
You were fantastic. You shared so many great resources, and I think you gave some of your experiences very informative, and
Mm,
I think it's very difficult for teachers who start off with their careers thinking, okay, well, I'm a teacher, and you're a teacher
mm,
for a couple of years, but how do you improve? How do you level up and do something different?
mm.
We've got a question here from Miss J before I get to my questions to you
Sure.
about Tefl or Trinity Tefl. Are they the same? I've been taking
Mm.
a Tefl, taking a Tefl course.
Well, these are slightly different. The Trinity TESOL, is the accredited form. The TESOL course, although it might be accredited in the USA or in the country of that it's been delivered, won't be accredited internationally or won't be recognised by international organisations. But if it provides the teaching practice, then you'll have the opportunity to learn through practice. And yeah.
There was a comment earlier about how teachers should try to improve and be lifelong learners. And
Mm,
I think many teachers get into education and they think, okay, well, I'm just a
mhm.
teacher. And that
Yeah.
is not the mindset we want to have, not just as professionals, but as
Mhm.
humans that try and improve somehow. So that's why this continuing professional development is so important. Getting more experience and taking more
Mhm.
courses, becoming better, and perhaps getting different positions in the future. So,
Yeah.
what if there was if there was a teacher that just got into teaching and they're very ambitious, they want to learn, they want
Mhm.
to level up? What kind of advice would you give to a 24-year-old teacher getting into language teaching?
Well, I suppose what I would recommend is to approach the language schools initially. Speak to teachers, speak to the staff of language schools. Um, Try to find out what is it like working as a language teacher. What's expected of you? Is it really how I envisage it? And is it going to be slightly more stressful than I expected it to be,
Mm,
and see if you could go into maybe shadow a teacher to really understand a bit more about what it takes to become a language teacher and what sort of things are required. Not just the qualifications, but the sort of skills that are required, and you could learn quite a bit by observing um, experienced teachers. This is how we all learned,
mm.
observing others and learning how to deliver different things.
Finding a
So that
mentor. Yeah.
yeah, finding a mentor, someone who could support you. That would be my first recommendation. And if you're like, yep, this is the one for me, this is the sort of career that I want to pursue, then go and do recognized qualification. Because yeah, if you're not if you're not dissuaded from looking at language teaching once you've gone in and observed and shadowed a teacher, then yeah, you're not going to be you're not going to take the hits, and you're going to try and do your best. And a course would be the next step, and then post course, see if you can approach the same school and see if you can do a bit of work for them and see if they can help you in your early career.
Yeah, definitely. I think once you decide, okay, teaching is for me. This is something I want to do, and you see it being done in the classroom by another teacher, and you see what's
Mhm,
going on. Once you become a teacher, I would say before you try and chew off more than you what
mhm.
is it? Chew off more than bite off
You
more
could,
than you can chew.
yeah.
You want to make sure to cover your bases and to
Mhm,
get some experience, to practice, to make sure that you're confident in the classroom.
mhm,
And once you're settled, now you want to start thinking about how can I improve and evolve as a teacher, and that will require experience, more
mhm,
experience. So perhaps trying out different age groups or trying
mhm,
out different things that you're going to teach. And then also studying more, getting more knowledge. And that's exactly what you provided us with, getting a master's or taking a TESOL or getting different qualifications. And also, what I liked the most about it is that there are so many opportunities for teachers that grow and expand and learn these new skills, that they can actually become, like you said, content writers, or even do a teacher training and things like that in the future. So it's important to do things like that, to have a goal, set these goals for yourself.
Yeah. It's important, and one thing leads to another. I've found, particularly after 17 years of teaching, if I could go back and I could say, okay, I wouldn't have been able to get involved with adult teaching in Korea if I hadn't done the course, and if I hadn't gotten to adult teaching, I wouldn't have got into exam, and if I hadn't got, and you could go back that way, but it's trying to take advantage of the opportunities. And as people, there's an element of luck, but there's also an element of hard work, and the hard work, the opportunities that you create for yourself, allows you to pursue, and the more opportunities you develop, the greater chance that you have something's going to succeed in the end. I guess it's a game of luck.
Exactly. It's like creating your own luck by putting in the hard work. I think the scariest thing, though, that you mentioned is it's easy to sit in your study and take a course, or just getting experience by yourself in the classroom. But the scariest thing for many teachers is to put themselves out there, is to connect with other teachers, because maybe we feel inadequate. We feel like, oh, maybe I'm a bit scared. What if I show them my activities or my ideas or my lesson plans, and I'm just laughed down? So I when you talked about going onto Twitter, starting your own blog, connecting either in your own circle, in your own community, or online, that's perhaps the scariest part of becoming a professional.
Yes, it is. It is. There's an element. Whenever you look at teaching, there's going to be certain areas or certain views held by others. Some views may differ from other people, and you may get, laughed down, or you may, people may deride your view or opinion. But as long as you're putting out your view, or it may, you may go, oh, actually, I didn't consider that. This was my view initially. I've shared my ideas, my thoughts, but in reflection now, based on people saying you hadn't considered this, then it may reinforce a new view. So as educators, we can either sit in the sort of comfort zone, or we can kind of push out a little bit more. And one thing that I would always recommend for teachers is not to do the same thing year on year, because you would end up teaching one year maybe 15 times, doing the same thing again and again. Or do you teach 15 years doing different things each year? Do you develop that way? So it's always pushing the boundaries, always trying to experiment, trying to find and discover new opportunities that way.
Definitely. When you first start teaching, you kind of you want to gain confidence, and you find things that work, and you keep on doing those, and you stay in your lane. You're like, I'm going to continue doing this, but you're never going to grow if you don't. I just quickly want to go back to the point you made about the only way that you can actually grow is to show your product and your ideas to the world, and that feedback that you get will help you grow. It's like with anything. Let's say I'm a painter and I paint a picture, or I paint many pictures, and I just leave it in my room for me to look at. Only if I take those pictures and I show people outside can they say, oh, well, you can actually adjust your brush stroke like this? Or maybe have you considered using different colors? So it's a scary thing, but I would say have a base of knowledge and activities and ways that you teach, but then systematically try and improve on it and try different things.
Yeah, yeah. Reflection does help. Reflection, building on what you've done. Yeah, that's true.
So with your blog, it's grown quite a lot. It looks very professional. How did it start off? You started writing about your MA, and then you started sharing activities and things like that. How's it
Yeah.
going with the website?
Well, for me, it's more of a portfolio now of my teaching, my experience, and book reviews and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, when I first started my blog, it was on Blogspot, I think it was called, on Google, but now it's called Blogger. And I started writing and reflecting on my MA course. I knew my MA course was going to be starting in September, October time. And I thought, okay, summertime, I'll start a blog. I'll reflect on my studies. I'm not naturally academic. I did fail some exams when I was younger. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to, retain some knowledge from my course. And I thought, no one's going to read it. It's just going to be there. So I, physically writing down and reviewing things that I'd studied, or, lectures that I attended, this will help me through the course. It was just merely a studying process for me. And then it started getting a bit of interest. And I thought, okay, well, I've only got a few months left, so I'm going to blog about a particular lesson or, some materials or some ideas. And then it started getting more and more interest, and it kind of snowballed out of that. And now I moved it over. I shifted it from Blogger, then WordPress.com, and then WordPress.com to WordPress.org, which is self-hosting. And had it not been for my blogging, I wouldn't have learned the skills of like trying to write and blog and set up a website myself. And that in itself is a skill. It's an opportunity for you to develop as a teacher, I guess, isn't it? But also to share what you're sharing to other readers, however useful my ramblings might be.
No, very useful. I have another question. So, what skills inside the classroom do you think teachers should focus on? And it could be at different stages of their career too. So, it could be, if you're a language teacher, it could be classroom management, it could be, timing, it could be, grammar, or, we've got another question here, how to perhaps get students to participate, So what do you think a teacher should focus on in their classroom?
Okay, so you could look at a classroom, you could look at a lesson, say, I'm going to introduce the same topic the same way I've done 100 times. Or you could say, well, actually, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. So rather than just, okay, these are the pictures, let's have a look, let's draw the pictures, the vocabulary, let's check and play a game. You could say, okay, I'm going to give a picture to each student. I'm going to try and introduce the language differently. And that student has to describe that picture to other students, and the other students have to guess what the word is. As an introduction, you could switch it up a little bit. You could make it a bit more unpredictable, a little bit different. Otherwise, the students will feel a bit disengaged, like, oh, here we go again, the same introduction, the same vocabulary. So changing it, making it unpredictable, making it engaging for students in that sense would help. When it comes down to vocabulary games, have a variety of vocabulary games available. They could be physical, they could be online, they could, you could project them. do different things, try and experiment, and do your homework. Go back home and go, okay, I want to find a really interesting activity that I want to do in class. I'm going to be doing a present continuous. And I saw today there was a video from another language teacher who looked at a particular website where it gives you an online tour. So you're in a particular city and someone's walking down the city and they're describing the city. So present continuous are there's a person walking down the street and there's a dog accompanying him and that sort of stuff. So try and seek different tools to help you with teaching. Make time to make flashcards, laminate those flashcards so you can reuse them. Rather than getting students sitting row after row in the classroom, move all the tables out the way and get them sitting in a circle. Make it different. Switch things up. That would be my advice.
Well, it's fantastic advice. And what I really appreciate is that you said that, do these things, but do it consciously, where you are reflective on what you're trying. So if you're trying something new, think about it and look at how it affects your students. And I guess that's what your blog also does, is because you have to go and physically type out what's going on or what you did and how it went. It's reflective practice that's very important. And I quickly want to jump in here and just say we've got Paul here. Hello from Canada, guys. I'm so sorry I couldn't participate in the festival, Eric, but congratulations on its successful launch. I've been watching the recordings. Yeah. Paul, thank you so much. I hope we all wish you well. Paul had knee surgery. He couldn't participate. But Paul, we all wish you well. Guys, send some love and go to the Grammar Detective and wish Paul well. We hope to see you soon. We're very excited for it, Paul. And in the same breath, everyone, you have to go to Martin's channel, ELT Experiences. I think I linked it in the description below, and I'm not sure if I linked your website too. What's your website's name?
It's same name, ELT Experiences, all one word, eltexperiences.com.
Okay, let's see. Boni-esther says, very informative, well delivered presentation. Thank you, Martin. I agree. It was fantastic.
Thank you ever so much.
Let's see if there are any questions. Okay, what do you think about this one? This is a bit off topic, but I think my question, most teachers' opinion is that students are impolite, misbehaving in class, but I believe that students need a perfect teacher. They aren't impolite. What is your opinion, Martin? Do you think students are impolite, or it's the teacher's fault?
Depends on the culture, isn't it? The culture of the students and how what's expected socially of students. If students are misbehaving, it might be due to a variety of different issues. One idea comes to mind about disengagement of the lesson, but also maybe they're not really connecting with the material. They're not really interested in the subject, and it's your job as a teacher to try and make that effort, to make the lesson engaging, to make the students connect with what you're teaching. And I don't think students are naturally impolite or misbehave. It might be there's something happening at home, something that we're not really necessarily aware of, because things happen, life happens, as teachers as well. Things happen outside of a language school, and you've just got to swallow that for the moment and deliver your class and go back and then decompress. But for students, they may find it quite difficult, particularly for younger students, and it's a bit of an unknown quantity when it comes down to teaching. They may have their own issues, they may have their own challenges and struggles, as we all do. I would recommend trying to be patient for students, particularly for those that are misbehaving, and don't talk down to them, but give them a space, take them away and say, is there anything you want to share? Let me know.
Yeah, some school environments, students are great, and then you get some schools where the students perhaps there's not a culture of being disciplined. So sometimes you've got easy schools, great schools you can work at. Sometimes they are very difficult schools with difficult students. But I think no matter where you teach, it's up to the teacher to do their best. It's up to the teacher to have engaging classes and to connect with their students and provide good experiences. So yeah, no, it's difficult to just say. I would say as a teacher, you've got to take it up on yourself and say, okay, what can I do to improve this class? Because often I've taught in very difficult circumstances where many teachers suffered, but then there are one or two teachers that do really well with the same students. And then you've got to say, well, hang on, how can they do it? And it's difficult for me. So I don't want to blame teachers, but I think no matter where you are, it's up to you to try and do the best with what you've got.
It kind of leads me on to a story that, the first Hagwon or private institute that I was working at, the directors of the school said, okay, we want more games in the classroom. And then for about 2 or 3 weeks, it was like, okay, game, more games. Come on, then I'll deliver more games. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, no, parents have been complaining it's too many games. You need, to teach grammar and vocabulary. And it's like, okay, all right. And it kept flopping between the two, It's
never
like
happened.
trying to accommodate.
Well, Martin, let's finish with the last two questions. The first one is from Paul, and he asks, have you ever considered compiling your blog into a book?
I've not. Well, I've kind of looked at self-publishing. It would be quite nice to put all my ideas down on paper and to share that. And also link into videos that I've created on YouTube. But I don't think I'm at that stage yet where I want to compile my blog and publish it, because it kind of, for me, it indicates an end of my blog. I just want to leave it until I get to maybe retirement and say, this was my blog, this was my journey, this is how I pursued my career in teaching.
Well, at least you've got that body of work, and then you can make the decision once you're ready. And then the final question I want to look at is from Tuart. He says, I've only been teaching ESL close to 4 years now. Does your advice and tips on continued development pertain only to older teachers? Because I'm in my early 40s. And Paul said, yeah, I too became an ESL teacher in my 40s. Good for you for choosing this path. So what do you think? Continuing professional development, even though you start quite late in life?
Later, you're always going to, well, you may not see from the grey hair that I've got on my head. I'm also in my early 40s, and, but there's nothing stopping teachers, however late they join this industry, this career, of continuing their professional development. And I'm always grateful to work with individuals who have joined this career, whatever age they are, as long as they're receptive, as long as they take on sort of ideas, reflect. So you can't stop learning. It's a fact of life. And I think opening up, starting your blog, sharing your ideas, that's one step closer, and doing other courses, free courses, that sort of thing. I think that's so important.
Well, Martin, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and advice and information. You did a fantastic job. I can see everybody's happy. I see lots of messages coming through. Final words from you.
Well, yeah, thank you ever so much for inviting me today. I really appreciate it, and such a great opportunity to share my background into this teaching industry, and I hope it gives some inspiration to those that have joined today or those that are watching later, to continue developing as teachers and make a life out of it and continue that journey, because we're all on a journey, aren't we?
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Tomorrow we've got Breathe English with English for the Workplace. I think it's for English learners and English teachers. So please join again, same time, same place. Everyone, have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.
Thank you ever so much.